Hey guys, it's Steve, TPC. Right over my shoulder here is 2nd Avenue, downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Interestingly, I wasn't just here the morning of the bomb, but on Christmas Eve, at about 1 p.m., I arrived in Nashville, and I was looking for a particular bottle of gin that the friend who I'm staying with while I'm in Nashville, he and I have a particular affinity for this one gin. It's called Conniption Navy Strength Gin. And just as I arrived here in Nashville, I Googled up the closest liquor store that I could find. And just right here, 1 block from here on this side of the street, is a small liquor store, and not knowing whether they would have Conniption Navy Strength, which, by the way, is distilled right there in Durham, North Carolina, where I live. I live in Raleigh, but right there in the Bull City. And we have, as I said, a particular affinity for our gin and tonics to be made with the Durham Distillery concoction. And so I was looking for that because as a good Christmas gift, I should come bearing gifts, of exceeding great joy. And so I was looking for the Conniption before I showed up. So this was the first place I stopped. And amazingly, even on Christmas Eve in downtown Nashville, I was surprised to find a parking spot right there across the street from the liquor store. And that was an amazing thing in and of itself. But I guess as you can imagine, with the hit to the tourist industry here in Nashville, they have unusually many parking spaces available at this time. And that's not normally the case. Usually I have to find a place down here somewhere in a parking deck or a parking lot for $15 to $30 for a couple of hours of parking in the afternoon. But I was able to park free right across the street, right there on 2nd Avenue. I ran in to find out, much to my dismay, that it was a very, very, very small liquor store, and they did not have what was needed at the time. And so I was only in there about 30 seconds before I realized that they would not have the Conniption. And so I took off and went down the road here to the West End and found a much larger place that had exactly what we needed for our holiday celebration. So I, less than 24 hours before the bombing, was parked right there where the bomb went off. So I woke up Christmas morning to the news of what was going on around here, and obviously have been very attuned to everything that's been taking place over the last couple of days. I still am getting very, very sketchy service from my cell service because I am on AT&T. It took about 36 hours before my cell service even came back. I wasn't needed. I was parked where I could get Wi-Fi and had no problems communicating otherwise. But even driving downtown into Nashville today, I was quite surprised that even though I had a full signal on my phone, it's slower than death down here. I had a full 5G signal, but it's barely working. So they're still obviously having problems getting it up and running here. But obviously, being very in touch with what's going on, having been here when this event happened and having been parked right there less than 24 hours beforehand, it was quite impactful on my little brain. So I began digging in and watching all the news stories, and then as soon as I could, started following all the alternative sites and trying to learn what was going on. And I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories and that sort of thing. But the one thing that I can't shake, the one thing that I can't get out of my mind is that voice recording that was on the RV that said, "If you can hear this," I don't think that's the exact quote, but if you are listening to this, you need to evacuate right now. And it was over and over and over again. It sounded just like, to me, it sounded just like a something you would hear in a TSA line at an airport or at a Amtrak train station. Please pick up your belongings before leaving and departing, blah, blah, blah. And it sounded like the same voice, the same cadence, the same type on loop. If it had been in England, it would have been, in a British accent, it would have been mind the gap, mind the gap, mind the gap, over and over again. And then all of a sudden the explosion that happened after that, my first impression was how professional that presentation was in its simplicity. I am not prepared to jump on anybody's conspiracy theory wagons at this point, but I have come to the conclusion that there were multiple messages sent in this process. I don't believe for a second that this was some nut that was going to sacrifice his life in a suicide bombing to try to take out, a 5G, cell signal of some sort. The place where it was parked, the RV was parked, specifically not at the very tall, I don't know if you can even see it in the background, it's right up there somewhere, but the very tall Batman-looking tower, which is the AT&T building, is not where this was parked, but this was parked at a specific data center that contains what we have learned were apparently Dominion machines were being taken because just 3 or 4 days before Christmas, an AT&T employee posted on his union message board that they were delivering machines, Dominion machines, to this very location right here. And then that particular individual has now since posted that he is getting off the grid and going somewhere where he can hide because he's gotten so much grief and heat as a result of his post. This was 3 or 4 days before the event. I think it was on Christmas Eve morning, the national press, as well as the governor here and the mayor of Nashville, also began to use the phrase that this was ground zero of the new and the latest COVID outbreak in the country. That was their phrasing, ground zero, not mine. Look it up, Google it. It's in the news. I began to get immediately all kinds of messages from various resources and contacts that I have all over the country. These are some of these are former Special Forces guys, some people that are involved in the intelligence community, as well as some people that are well connected in journalism and the alternative press as well, that were sending me messages, and as they began to collate all kinds of rumors and information, and probably plenty of disinformation as well. But nevertheless, I was quite surprised at the volume of material I was beginning to receive about this particular event in my inbox. And some of it creates a lot of tangible connective tissue to something more going on than just some radical wingnut blowing up an RV in the morning. The fact that there was no desire apparently for a body count, and it just seemed to be more of a message. And I keep going back to that recording that was coming out of the RV. Now, there's apparently somebody saying now that the recording wasn't coming from an RV, but that it was being broadcasted from another building downtown. I don't know that there's any truth to that. And that there were gunshots, obviously. And then there was reports that the police had found shell casings, but I can't find any verification of that either. But there was on the scene ground testimony from residents that they were awakened, several of them, by quite a series of gunshots. Whether those were recorded just to get the police's attention and bring them down here so that they could begin clearing people out is still unknown. And in these types of events, as we all know, we've seen it 1,000 times before in the confusion and the fluidity of information as it's being passed, and rumors become bigger rumors, and rumors become conspiracy theories and things of that nature. It becomes very difficult to know what to believe. So I'm not ready to jump on any train yet. I just can't shake that message that was being broadcasted, whether from the RV or whether from a building down here on 2nd Avenue, that there was much more to this than meets the eye, that it was a signal of some sort. And that's where I'm going to stand right now. I'm not going to go any deeper or any further than that. But I do find it interesting that I had the coincidental opportunity to be parked right there, 1 block from here, on Christmas Eve at 1 p.m. And then the next morning, less than 24 hours later, on that very street is where the bomb went off. So obviously my antennas are up. I'm watching this thing closely. I'll probably have some more to share and comment about on this as time goes on. And then tomorrow night we've got our meeting here in Nashville. I'm on the TPC road trip, and we're going to be meeting here at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. If you get this message before tomorrow and you're in this area, please come hang with us. We'll talk about this at great length, I'm quite sure, and I'll show up with my bag full of information that's being shared on the internet and elsewhere about what's been happening here. So that's it. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the ground and say hello to everyone. Despite the interruptions here, and despite all of my friends in Nashville who, like me, are painfully unemployed. Not all my friends, but a great number of them that are full-time musicians as well, and are not touring or making their living playing music. This is an interesting time to be in Nashville for an entire layer of reasons, and I think the layers are building. So that's it. So have a great holiday, rest of your holiday, guys. Have a happy New Year, and stay tuned to all of the places where we're communicating right now. Obviously, we remain on Facebook despite our throttling there. We are working on that. They have given me one more opportunity for an appeal, which I'm going to be taking advantage of here probably later today. I'll be filing that. I actually had a phone conversation with support on Facebook last night. Believe it or not, they actually called me. I was stunned. So they're affording me one more appeal opportunity. Although they did tell me that my ad account has been permanently suspended and that our reach restrictions are in permanent status at this point. So as a result of that, we are, making the moves that we need to get to and get up and running, and for me to learn how to use my MeWe and Parler and of course the continuance of our expansion on our podcasting platforms. And then, of course, locals.com, where we have launched a couple of weeks ago. So stay tuned for all of that, and you'll find that information down here in the bottom comments on this particular video. So that's it. Once again, this is Steve Baker, the Pragmatic Constitutionalist, and I'm right here at actual ground zero for the Nashville bombing on 2nd Avenue, downtown Nashville. Have a great remainder of your holiday. Happy New Year. Hope I get to see you somewhere on the road soon.